So, the first Bible story in Bible Women is from the book of Esther, which is second only to the Song of Songs in the frequency with which it has been set to music. The great French playwright Jean Racine made a drama of it back in 1689, and there are at least 4 musical settings in French, directly or indirectly inspired by that, as well as one in English by Langston Hughes and Jan Meyerowitz. Jacques Offenbach's father started but left unfinished an Esther oratorio in German in 1833. Joel Engel, composer of the first Dibuk, arranged Jewish melodies for Esther in 1895. And the 20th century saw at least 20 different musicalizations of the story, 3 alone in 1943, around the time Jews were fighting Nazi soldiers in the Warsaw Ghetto. One of my favorites is the 1977 children's comic opera by Donald Sosin, whose parents were classmates at Columbia Graduate School in Russian with my mother, and who studied piano with one of my teachers, Kiriana Salotti. My favorite line in his opera concerns Mordecai, who grew up in Shushan, where he was a little Shushan boy. Anyway, the most ambitious opera on Esther was Hugo Weisgall's of 1992 on a very effective libretto by Charles Kondek. It's a very difficult piece to sing or to excerpt. The Milken Archive recorded 3 excerpts, 2 of them vocal on Naxos, but listening to it, the words are very difficult to understand, so I decided not to include it in this lecture. One of the most striking moments in the libretto, page 148 of the score, calls on Queen Vashti to bare her breasts as she bemoans the loss of love for her that has caused the king to seek a new queen, Esther. Like the similar stage direction called for at the end of the Siegmeister Malamud opera, The Lady of the Lake, in the New York City Opera production, which we saw in 1992, and again in its 2009 revival, that didn't happen. Traditionally, Vashti actually protests against nudity, and the demeaning it implies when her husband demands that she dance naked before his guests. Carol Joknowitz wrote us last night that the late Marxist critic Annette Rubinstein used to say Esther was a scab who should have shown solidarity with Vashti against reification or objectification of women. And of course, there's another point of view that Vashti should have agreed to dance naked, but only if the king agreed to as well. That's something I think my mother would have subscribed to. When we did a ballet from Rusalka, the opera that she and I translated in France.
Water ballet.
A water ballet around a swimming pool with a nude mermaid's chorus singing and swimming. She looked at it and she said, "You mean all the women are naked and the men aren't? That's no fun." So, anyway. So let's hear the Swallows' take on Esther in the next track.